Hey guys, so going to try something new today, breaking down the advanced stats from Notre Dame's Camping World Bowl win over Matt Campbell and Iowa State. A little pivot to video, if you will, and we'll see how it goes. So if you're newer to advanced stats, no worries. I'll explain the different measures used as we go along. But if you get lost at any point, check out the video description below for a link to the advanced stats definitions to help you out. So let's jump into it. So this was projected to be a close game going in, whether you looked at the Vegas line or advanced stats projection systems, all of them saw this as around a 3 to 5 point game. I think the line moved a little bit between 3.5, 4 points, depending on when you were looking at it. But really, by the end of this game, Notre Dame had clear advantages across the board, whether you looked at measures of explosiveness like yards per play, efficiency, the success rate you can see here, or the scoring opportunities created. Across the board, Notre Dame was able to establish some advantages, really pulling away in the second half after a first half where they were really opportunistic, able to dominate the Cyclones in the second half. So you can see there a 2.3 yard per play advantage for Notre Dame. Usually, if you have a yards per play advantage between 2 and 3 yards, you'll win about 95% of the time. On average, win by about 24 points, which just so happens to be exactly the final margin of victory for Notre Dame in the 33-9 win. Not as big of a relative edge in efficiency, but still a really healthy margin and a success rate that we'll look at in a little bit more detail here. And then you can see at the bottom here, 4.9% of plays were thrown out as garbage time. As always with your advanced stats, you want to throw out plays toward the end of the game when the objective really has changed from trying to gain yards and as many points as possible to really just wanting to run out the clock. So there, the last drive for Iowa State and Notre Dame both fell in that category. So in the numbers we'll break down here, those plays are thrown out. So let's jump first into a kind of a surprising area with efficiency. And really what was surprising to me here is an average success rate. And success rate, again, is really a measure of how well you're able to stay on schedule. If you looked at each play, if you gain 50% of the yards needed on first down, 70% of the yards needed on second down, on third and fourth down, success is gaining that first down yardage. So looking at how well each team was able to do there, an average success rate is about 43%. So you can see here, Notre Dame had a big advantage. Overall success rate on the ground, and the passing game more efficient as well. But really, neither team was really efficient in any phase of the game here. So Notre Dame closest would be in the passing success rate. You can see they're almost about an average success rate. Running the ball a little bit less efficient. And really, where Clark Lea's defense shows up here, this passing down success rate, holding the Cyclones to just 15% success on those passing downs of 2nd and 8 yards or more, 3rd and 5 yards or more, where you know the offense for the other team really is likely to have to throw it to be able to be efficient. One of the big storylines in this game that everyone was keeping a close eye on was how Tommy Rees would do in his first game calling plays as offensive coordinator, acting offensive coordinator, and maybe auditioning for the full-time role. And one of the interesting things to take a look at in this game is that really it looks like Tommy wants to run the football. On first down, Notre Dame ran 26 first down plays on offense. Of those, 18 were runs. And overall, did they do well? Well, the answer is kind of. They actually averaged 10.8 yards per carry, which by any means everyone would evaluate as success. But they weren't very efficient actually running the ball and trying to establish the run on first down. Only a third of those runs were considered successful, and 60% of those runs gained 2 yards or fewer. But on those two plays, it did have the two longest runs in the game, including the long 84-yard touchdown run by Tony Jones Jr. So mixed results there. It'll be interesting to see. The announcing crew talked a lot about Brian Kelly and Tommy Rees wanting to establish the run, viewing that as Notre Dame's identity, which is pretty interesting because this year Notre Dame was significantly more efficient and explosive throwing it. And you're missing two veteran starters, still Tommy Kramer and Robert Hainsey out on the right side of the offensive line. And even in this game, the passing game was more efficient and averaged 8.3 yards a play, while runs, even with that long Tony Jones touchdown, were only at 5.8 yards a pop on average. So it'll be interesting to see going forward, what does Tommy Rees view as the offense that he would like to run at Notre Dame if he gets that chance? How does his identity offensively jive with what Brian Kelly and Chip Long have been doing earlier in 2017, 2018, and 2019? One area for improvement still, in power success situations, so third or fourth downs with 2 yards or fewer to go, Notre Dame was only 1 of 4 in those situations. The one success was an Ian Book quarterback sneak, but also in those situations we saw some runs to the outside, Jafar Armstrong getting tripped up and getting a big negative play on one of those 3rd and 1s, and only 1 of 4 in a situation where really you'd expect to convert those about 75% of the time. Moving to explosiveness, again, a really strong yards per play advantage for Notre Dame. Again, advantages across the board, both on the ground and passing. And I've really buried the lead here with the Irish defense that was exceptional on the day against a Cyclone offense that has a really good quarterback in Brock Purdy, top 20 nationally in passer rating this year and yards per attempt, and some dangerous skill position weapons as well. So again, they held Iowa State to really poor efficiency, limited the big plays. The Cyclones had just 3 of over 20 yards and no gains over 30 yards on the day, and really played some perfect bend but don't break defense, clamping down on those passing downs and taking away those crossing routes that Brock Purdy likes to go to. So if you look further, breaking this down by quarter, it's pretty interesting. In the first half, it was a 20-6 Notre Dame lead. But if you look at the numbers, Iowa State was actually ahead in success rate. They were ahead in yards per play. The scoring chances were only 4-3 in favor of Notre Dame. But the Irish did take advantages of those 2 turnovers for Iowa State, converted their scoring chances into touchdowns, while Iowa State settled for field goals, both in the first half and then all day. And then you can see how things really opened up and the defense started to clamp down and dominate in the 3rd and 4th quarter. And the Irish offense also turned things up really there to separate in the 3rd. It really was a near perfect day and game plan from Clarkley in the game. Breece Hall entered the game as Iowa State's really bell cow running back, almost 1,000 yards on the season as a true freshman. But he was really limited in this game, just had a 33% success rate, only 4.8 yards per touch. They really tried to get him in space with 21 touches. Didn't work out all that well. As a result, Iowa State fell behind the chains a lot, got into a lot of those passing downs where they had to throw to win. Notre Dame knew they were going to have to throw to win. In those situations, they did a really good job, again, taking away those routes over the middle that Iowa State likes to run. Brock Purdy in those passing down situations, just 8 of 15, 4.4 yards per attempt, and they got to him with 4 sacks and a lot of pressures on the day. Some really great play by Ade Ungadeji, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Khalid Kareem battling injuries in his last game in an Irish uniform. A really strong performance, getting to Purdy, making him feel uncomfortable, and taking away some of those weapons like tight end Charlie Kohler. Looking at defensive disruption, Clarkley's defense was far more disruptive in this game. So if we look here, Havoc rate is really a measure of neat stuff that the defense does. It includes things like tackles for a loss, sacks, pass breakups, interceptions, forced fumbles, and you can see Notre Dame had a big edge in that category. One of the few things that it actually doesn't capture is run stuffs. So if you have a run stuff that's a tackle for a loss when the opponent tries to run the game, that is included in Havoc rate. But if you just get stopped for 0 yards, that's actually not captured there. And you can see here, Iowa State doesn't have a great running game, but Notre Dame totally shut down the Iowa State run game in Breece Hall by really having a lot of those plays where they stuffed them for no yards or a negative play. Over a third of Cyclone carries went for 0 yards or fewer. Huge deal in keeping them behind the chains, creating those passing downs where Notre Dame again was able to get a lot of pressure and translate that into 4 sacks on the day. On the flip side, a really strong performance by the Notre Dame offensive line, keeping Ian Book clean against an Iowa State defense that actually came in pretty well regarded. I think they were 22nd in S&P Plus defense. I think top 40 if you look at something like FEI, but really didn't look like it in the bowl game. We're really not able to make Ian Book feel too uncomfortable. Only 1 sack on the day, which actually was a sack of Chris Fink on Tommy Rees, kind of getting a little cute with a reverse that Chris Fink was looking to throw but had to eat as it didn't look like anything was open downfield. Looking then at how well each team created scoring chances and then finished them. So a scoring chance here is defined as a first down inside the opponent 40-yard line. Full disclaimer, I am not a math major, but if you create more scoring chances and then you do more with each of those scoring chances, most of the time you're going to win, every single time. So again, it wasn't a perfect day for the Notre Dame offense. They did settle for 4 field goals, including 2 once they had made it down into the Cyclone red zone. But the defense was so effective that it really didn't matter. You can see Iowa State with 4 scoring chances on the day. Their very first one in kind of a tone-setting drive. Brock Purdy gets strip sacked, so they come away empty with no points. The other 3 scoring chances, they come away just with field goal attempts, which they converted, but 2.3 points per scoring opportunity allowed is pretty exceptional, and as long as Notre Dame was going to convert a few touchdowns on the day, they would be just fine. Looking at average starting field position, it was a virtual draw. Notre Dame started on average at their own 30-yard line, while Iowa State on average started at their own 29. Key here for Notre Dame was really keeping Iowa State with a long field to work with. They rarely had the ball. Only one of their drives started in Notre Dame territory, and the best field position they had on the day besides that was at their own 40-yard line. They forced Brock Purdy and company to really string together long, successful drives since they didn't give up any big plays, and really the Cyclone offense wasn't up to that task. Moving then down to turnovers, a little bit of positive luck for Notre Dame, but a very clean game. No fumbles, only a few balls that Ian Book threw that were broken up. On average, you expect 1 out of every 4 or 5 pass breakups to end up as an interception. If you look at Iowa State, a little bit of bad luck in that both of their fumbles they ended up losing. You expect those to be about a 50-50, whether you recover it or not. But in general, pretty much each team got what they deserved. Notre Dame did lead the country in fumbles and fumble recoveries this year, so they kept it going with 2 really terrific plays and individual efforts to come up with those strips on the punt return by Loie Gilliman, and then Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah with the sack. 3 stars of the game, borrowing one from our Canadian friends here. First, Tony Jones Jr. We got Dan Orlovsky talking about Chipotle, not thinking anything's going to happen, and he's loose. And Notre Dame fans are thinking, yep, he can be caught. And he is caught, but he hits him with that stiff arm button, gets all the way in. That's some grown man strength. Anytime you stiff arm someone for 20 yards, you deserve to be one of the 3 stars. Notre Dame fans are like, that Tony Jones Jr.? Iowa State guys, going to need some bush lights to forget that one. Huge game, only 11 carries, over 130 yards, 3rd star of the game. Second, Chase Claypool. I don't know what else you can say about this guy. MVP of the season, named as by his teammates and coaches. Over 1,000 yards in this game. Super physical, never got brought down by a single guy, maybe all season. 13.3 yards a target, 20.9 yards a catch. Good efficiency and good success rate on those as well. And goes in on special teams, still going all out. It's the Camping World Bowl. He's an NFL draft prospect. He doesn't care. Makes a huge fumble recovery. In last, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, 3 sacks, including that early strip sack, forced fumble, covered it himself. Personally responsible for 5 of the team's 11 havoc plays just by himself, doing work. Huge performance, huge year by the linebackers. Guy looks to have All-American potential going into next season. So that's the Camping World Bowl, a great way to cap off the season. I know a lot of fans would have liked to have seen the Irish in a New Year's Six Bowl. Almost every other year they would have been. They were victim of a weird year. There were a ton of other Power 5 programs that didn't have many losses. A lot of them were to each other. But 11 wins is 11 wins, and if you weren't able to enjoy this one, you're doing it wrong. They beat a quality opponent by a big number and continue a season really of incremental progress, even if it's not maybe up to what fans would have hoped for with losses in 2 of the bigger games. But still, 3 straight seasons with 10-plus wins. A clean game, really, from the offense and defense. This showed, I think, what the A game of this team can look like. A glimpse of maybe what the ceiling can be, and also a little bit maybe of what could have been. But caps off a really strong 3-year stretch. It's been the best of the Kelly era in both the wins and the advanced stats. I think the question we'll continue to look at all off season is how do the Irish really break into that consistent top 10 range? How do they continue to up the talent level Brian Kelly threw out there that he thinks that there's top 5 recruiting class potential? I don't know exactly the formula he's thinking of to get there. It seems like a bold claim to make to me, but we'll find out. How do they continue to raise the ceiling of the offense, maybe find one of the first round types of talent at quarterback that it seems like you need these days in order to win a playoff? And then how do they continue to compete better against the biggest games and against the most talented teams on the schedule, especially on the road? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please share. You can find my writing. We'll be breaking down the season at 18stripes.com. Have a happy new year in 2020. Hey, this was fun. Let's enjoy the afterglow of this win for a while. Talk to you soon.